Hey everybody, and welcome to Kensington Online. My name is Patrick. We're so glad you decided to join us today. And if it's your first time watching, we just want to say a special welcome to you. We also want to let you know that we are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's really one of the best places you can find out all the information about who we are and about what's going on here at our church. And we also wanted to say Happy Father's Day to all of you dads out there. We hope you're having a great day today. Today we're actually theming out our entire service around that, so it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to hear a fun opener. You're also going to get to see a little game where we do a little dad jokes, so it's going to be a lot of fun there. I'll tell you, I'm actually competing in it, so it's going to be fun. I'm hoping I'll win that one as well. I also want to invite you, if you're watching on Facebook, we have somebody that's going to be joining you in that hosting. So if you want to comment along, feel free to do that. Like, share, and comment below. We'd love to connect with you in that way. Well, I think we're about to get started. The opener is going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you right back here in just a few minutes.
Now there was a time when you loved me so I couldn't do wrong. Now you need to know. See, I've been a bad man, and I'm in deep. Yeah, and I found a brand new love for this man. Can't wait till you see. I can't wait. How you like me now? 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 Yeah. How you like me now? 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 How you like me now?
Hey, Brian Jackson, everybody. You guys get up for Brian Jackson. Fantastic. Fantastic. Hey, welcome to Kensington Church, and happy Father's Day. Can we just give it up for all the dads real quick out there? Yes. Yes, welcome. Well, we're so glad that you're here. My name is Patrick. I'm the lead pastor here, and we're excited you decided to join us today. If you would, go ahead and pull out the card that you got when you came in. That's got a couple of announcements on it that I wanted to highlight and let you know about. We've got a couple things coming up here that we just wanted to put on your radar. And the first thing is every summer we do movie nights here at our Traverse City campus. And this is really an opportunity for you and your family to be able to come out. We do a lot of things around this. There's like, the big kind of blow up bounce house kind of thing, slides, all that's here. We always do food, and then we have a massive screen that we put out on the front lawn, and it's an opportunity for you just to kind of come and spend some time with you and your family. So we'd love for you to join us in that. That's going to be July 27th, and then this year we also have another one coming up August 24th. So July 27th and August 24th are the two that we're going to be doing that at, and so we'd love for you to just go ahead and mark your calendars for that event. The other thing I want to let you know about is next week we are kicking off a brand new series called Learning to Fly. And we're going to be talking about something that's true of every single one of us in the room when it comes to baggage that we carry. And so to give you a little teaser around that, we got a short video, so check this out. So throughout this entire series, what we're going to be talking about is forgiveness and how you can find a way to get rid of some of the baggage that you've been carrying. So we're excited about that. This is an incredible series to invite somebody to, so we'd love for you maybe to bring somebody with you. Because again, no matter where you are on the faith spectrum, the thing that's true of all of us is we have people in our lives we have to learn how to forgive. So we invite you back next week for that. The other thing I want to let you know about is we're doing our outdoor baptisms on August 12th this year. And so what we're doing during that time is we're going to be doing a service that day. We're going to be going out on the lawn, and we're going to have everybody out there, and we'll have an amazing environment for kids out there. But we're going to do baptisms out there as well. So we'd like for you to mark your calendars for August 12th for that one. And then the last thing I want to let you know about is this Wednesday night, we have one of our render services. And real quick, how many of you ever been to one of our render services? Anybody been to that? Yeah. It's such an incredible night. What we do is we do a service, but it's a little bit of a shorter service. And then what we do is we do a lot more music, and then we'll take communion together as well. And so it's a fun environment. We would love for you to join us for that. It's going to be June 20th, so this Wednesday night, so mark your calendars. It's right here at our church. Now, since it's Father's Day, I got a quick question for you, but to do that, I want you to go ahead and stand up, give 3 or 4 people around you a high five, and then fellas, ask yourselves this question: are you a bacon fan, or are you just a bad person? So ask somebody around you, are you a bacon fan or a bad person?
Hey everybody, this is Patrick, and I just wanted to say thanks again for watching our service today online and being a part of this community. Now, we know that you might have some questions as you watch the service today and want to find out a little bit more information about who we are. And so we've created an environment for you to do just that. Simply go to startingpoint.today. That's startingpoint.today, and fill out that short form, and one of our staff members will reach out to you very shortly and answer any questions that you have about our church and about who we are. Again, thanks so much for watching. We'll be back at the end of the service today to give you a little bit more information, but we'll see you here in just a few minutes.
What's up, everybody? How are we feeling today? Happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. It's been a minute. My name is Brian. This is Annie.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick, and I just wanted to say thanks again for...
You have brought me to the water where my past can be swept away in the currents of your mercy, and I know we'll never be the same. There's no limit to your promise. Jesus, you have done it all for me. Jesus, you have done it all for me. All right, let's hear you sing this. Grace comes like a wave crashing over me. Grace comes like a wave crashing over and over and over. I will jump into the water where my soul can be satisfied, and your love is overflowing from within me, and it won't run dry. There's a limit to your promise. Jesus, you have done it all for me. Jesus, you have done it all for me. Yeah, yeah. Grace comes like a wave crashing over me. Grace comes like a wave crashing over and over and over. Grace comes like a wave crashing over me. Grace comes like a wave crashing over and over and over. Let's keep that hand clapping going for this part here. Yeah. You guys are good at that. Good job. There's healing in the water with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Forgiveness in the water with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Salvation in the water with a love that flows so deep. Wash over me, wash over me. Yeah, grace comes like a wave
would welcome me. I was lost, but he brought me in. Oh, his love for me. Oh, his love for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Free at last, he has ransomed, his grace runs deep. While I was a slave to sin, Jesus died for me. Yes, he died for me. Who the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. My Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me. I am who you say I am. I am who you say I am. The Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. I'm a child of God, yes I am. My Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. In my Father's house, there's a place for me. I'm a child of God, yes I am. Oh, you picked me, Lord. You do not forget about me. I am chosen.
I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for, not against me. I am who you say I am.
I am chosen, not forsaken. I am who you say I am. You are for me, not against me.
I am who you say I am.
I am chosen, not forsaken.
that song because some of you, you're here and you were invited by somebody, you haven't been to church in a long time. There's a line in that song that says, "You're for me, not against me. I am who you said I am." And for a lot of you, that's like one of the foundational pieces of Christianity that's just hard to overcome for you. Like you just like, if a good God or if he loves me and you have all these things. The beautiful part about a lot of the people in this room is that we've discovered that even in the midst of our questions, in the midst of our doubts, in the midst of the moments where it feels like God is distant, that over and over and over again, God has shown us that he is faithful in our lives. So I want to say thanks so much for singing with us. You can go ahead and have a seat. Again, we're so glad that you're here. And hey, can we just have real quick a little family moment too? I want to introduce you guys real quick. Everybody say, "Hey, Daryl." You say, "Hey, Daryl." Yeah, Daryl's one of my favorite people on the planet. Daryl has been attending, or how long have you been attending now? How long? About a year. He's been playing bass with us for about a year. His son Hunter has actually just joined our team as well. He's back there. He's making something happen with buttons. I don't know what they do back there, but my mic works, so I'm a fan. So Hunter's on our team too. And Daryl, he took a little bit of a break because of like a heart thing that had gone on, but all of that went well, and he's on the mend. And so this is his first Sunday back. So can we just welcome Daryl back? Super excited that you're here, man. We love you. Love that guy. Hey, I wanted to say too, if it's your first time, one of the things that we do in our services is we actually we do an offering, and if you come to church, that's one of the things that you hear about. Like if I show up at church, all they want is my money, and so we say this around here a lot. In some ways, that's true, but not because we just want your money. But we believe very deeply that when people come together and they give, they can be a part of something that is so much bigger than themselves, and that's what a lot of people in this room do. A lot of us give sacrificially, and we see things happen both in our community, but we see things happen globally as well. And so I know I say this a lot, but I just want to say thank you so much for those of you who give. And so we want to invite our ushers to move forward. We're going to go ahead and receive our offering. And we say this too, one of the easiest ways to give is either on your mobile app or online. That's one of the best ways that you can do it. You can even set up recurring giving. That's what our family does. So we'd love to invite you to do that. Now, if you're new, one of the things that we also like to say is this, that when you give, again, you see things happen locally, but you also see things happen globally. And because of the people in this room, because of the people at our 6 campuses, what we see is that we're able to reach a little over 500,000 people all over the world because of your giving. And so really, only a portion of what you give here just really happens here. It actually goes all over the world. And so we just wanted to say thank you so much for partnering with us and seeing some of those amazing things happen. Now today, with it being Father's Day, we have some fun things in store for you. You're going to get to hear from one of my favorite speakers here in just a few minutes. But with it being Father's Day, we just assume that dads are really cool. Am I right? Dads, are you pretty cool out there? Yeah, like you're... Hey, well,
most of us dads are pretty cool.
Well, hey, Brian Jackson. Hey,
Hey,
one more time,
how's it
Brian
going?
Jackson, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, man?
Thank
What are you doing?
Well, I wanted to come out here and wish you a special Happy Father's Day.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, there's something that you and I think, have in common, and that's after being dads, we both really appreciate a nice, good dad joke.
A good dad joke.
Or a bad dad joke,
Or
if you
bad-
will.
no.
Because most of them, let's be real, they're bad.
Yeah.
They're really bad.
All right, let's just ask. Can we just ask the ladies real quick? Ladies, just be honest. Like, you're in church. How many of you've heard a dad joke from your husband at some point? A really bad, cheesy. They're calling you out. That's great. So they know what we're talking about. That's great. Yeah.
I can see them rolling their eyes from here.
Yeah, that's great. It's awesome. Yeah. So dad
Well,
jokes.
You know what I was thinking? You know what would make my Father's Day really special today?
Oh.
Is if we had a nice, good dad joke battle
A
here.
dad joke battle.
You up for that?
I would totally be
So
up
here
for
you
that.
got some good ones. You know who
Yeah.
else I hear has some really good ones?
Who else has some good ones?
That would be Nick Toomey.
Nick Toomey, who's also speaking,
Nick
ladies and
Toomey.
gentlemen. Where's Nick at? Nick, get up here, man.
Let's bring Nick up
You guys
here.
get it up for Nick. I mean.
So this is how this is going to go.
Hold on.
Yeah.
You have a walk-up song? How'd you get a walk-up song, man?
It's entrance music.
Hey,
How did that happen?
when you pay people off in donuts, you can get anything.
There you
Right, Brian?
That's right. That's right. I like Boston cream. It's
There
my
we go.
favorite.
All right. It's good to know.
So this is how this is going to go. Each contestant here, they're going to take turns telling us their best dad jokes. If you laugh, you lose. So you got to keep a straight face, okay? We can't have a chuckle house.
Which one of us do you
I
think is a
just lost
chuckle house?
already.
What is that?
I don't
Chuckle
know.
House.
We're about to find out.
You were about to find out.
Didn't know I was going to say that, did you?
I'm glad you did. I'm really glad you did.
So we're going to take turns saying if somebody laughs, you get a point up here on the boards here. See? And we're going to do this like golf score. Lowest score wins. So if you
Okay.
keep a straight face, you're not going to get any points. You're going to win, okay?
All right.
And I think it's only fair since Nick, since you've been a father the longest, I think you should give us the first dad joke. You up for that?
Hold on, I need to.
I'm up for it.
Let's hear what you got here.
All right. First one.
I'm trying. Yeah.
What do you call syrup with a speech impediment? Nothing?
What was the Denny
Mrs. Stuttersworth.
Mrs. Stutters. I think the setup was funnier. All right, that was a good one.
Patrick, you were up. And you're losing. You're losing, just so you know.
I am losing. All right. I'm reading a book about anti-gravity. It's impossible to put down.
Look at that. Stone cold faces. Oh, points. Nick's winning. Patrick, 2 points.
I like the tongue and the side of the mouth. I think we need to zoom in.
It helps to bite the inside of your cheek.
It's good.
What fish tastes best with peanut butter?
I don't know.
Jellyfish.
I liked it. I liked it.
Am I getting booed by the... It's Father's Day, for crying out loud. You're like obligated to laugh.
All right, I think we're safe with that one. Patrick, you're up.
Here we go.
2-0.
You're American when you go into the bathroom, and you're American when you come out. But do you know what you are while you're in there?
I have no idea.
European.
It's a bathroom joke. It's funny. Yeah!
Middle school pastor days, man. Like,
Dude, you're getting
Nick
smoked.
doesn't even have a point yet.
I think we've got one more round here.
One
Just
more
one
piece.
more?
So save your
Man,
best
I got
ones
3
here.
more. All right. My favorite one. No, I'm throwing this one out. This doesn't count, but because it's for my grandson. So this isn't.
Oh yeah.
Why does a zombie never win a race? Too dead tired. That's my grandson. That's a good one.
That's a good
Here-
one.
Here's the real one. What is Forrest Gump's password? One, Forrest, one!
I think this is another point for Patrick.
Have you scored yet? All right, here we go. I'm gonna at least get one.
Man,
I think I laughed at that one, but they didn't penalize me,
ping
so
you.
I'm good. All
All right,
right.
here we go.
I'll let it slide.
I'm excited about this.
Oh. Closing the gap here.
Yeah. So, what do you call a fake noodle?
A fake noodle.
An impasta.
I guess we never said
I think that was the
wasn't
last
allowed,
one.
so,
That was the
yeah.
last one. Yeah.
Well,
that
I
was
think
good.
it's safe to declare Nick is our winner
Yeah,
today.
for Nick Toomey, ladies and gentlemen.
Congratulations, Nick. Winner of the Bad Dad Joke Battle. Congratulations.
Get that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, hey, give it up for the band. Thanks, guys. I didn't know when I came here I was going to get my own walk-up song. But happy Father's Day to all of you dads out there. Thanks for coming. Because on Father's Day, I think all the mothers on Mother's Day, they all want to come. They want to bring their families. On Father's Day, the dads all want to bail and go golfing. So I'm glad you're here. Hey, I don't know if you fathers have gotten any Father's Day gifts yet. It probably comes later. But I just found this like amazing gift. Not that my family got it for me, but I just saw this thing online. It's kind of creepy looking, but this is like the ultimate Father's Day gift. This is like, apparently there's a company where you can take a photo of your father or your grandfather, send it in. They'll make a block of cheese. That's what you call the ultimate cheesy Father's Day gift, which is kind of creepy because it's $810, by the way. I don't know why my family didn't spend that, but like if you actually got that, what do? Say Happy Father's Day and saw his head off and eat it? It's like just strange. But anyway, enough about that. So in our culture, with its obsession with superheroes, it's kind of hard for regular, ordinary dads to live up to that. I mean, the superheroes that we see, whether it's the string of Marvel movies or the latest Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson film that just came out, I think it's called Skyscraper. I mean, those guys, you ever see these films where these guys, they'll be running into danger, there's like 15 machine guns just unloading, they never get hit, and they turn around, they fire like one shot and 5 guys go down. It's amazing how that happens. They'll be in a head-on collision, the car disintegrates, it explodes into flames, they walk away unscathed. I think in this new Skyscraper film, I saw the trailer, and The Rock jumps out of this building like 50 floors above ground, and does like triple flips, and lands on the other side of the street in a building, just nails the landing. Me, if I jumped off this stage, I'd blow out both knees and end up in the hospital. So in a world where we have these unrealistic superheroes, the question is, can any of us real, regular, mortal dads live up to that? And well, the answer is no, we can't be like The Rock on a film. But can regular guys be in the trenches, real life, everyday superheroes? And the answer is absolutely yes. I've actually called today's message Dads That Make a Difference. And so we're going to talk today about one dad who did make an enormous difference, not only in his family, but in history. And his name is Abraham. And we'll come back to him in a moment. But this is kind of the key thing that I want us to wrestle with. And it's this. It's not our ability, whether we're dads or maybe someday we'll be dads, or really it doesn't matter your gender. But I think it's true across the board. It's not our ability that allows us, in this case, to be a dad who makes a difference. It's not our abilities. We have a wide range of abilities and so forth. It's really our availability. And that's what we discover in the life of Abraham. And you may be saying, well, who's Abraham? And that's a fair question. Some of you know something about this guy. It's not Abraham Lincoln, but it's a man named Abraham who comes out of the Old Testament. And Abraham is one of the most influential people in the history of the world. So if you don't know anything about him, I think it's important that you know at least a couple things. Among the things, one of the reasons why he's one of the most influential people in the world is he is the father of the entire Jewish nation. So the nation of Israel that exists today, it traces its lineage back to Abraham. But it wasn't just the Jewish people. The Jewish descendants come through his son Isaac, and then his grandson Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. But he was also, he had a son named Ishmael, who became the father of all the Arab groups in the world that exist today. All those nations trace the roots back to Abraham, and 3 world religions trace back to Abraham. Judaism, which is the oldest of the 3. Christianity, because Jesus came out of the lineage of Abraham, and then Islam. All 3 of those religions trace their heritage back to Abraham. So when it comes to dads who make a difference, what I want to point out here is that this is not like dumb luck when you end up with a healthy marriage, when you raise young children who become mature, loving adults. It doesn't just happen. It's really the result of everyday, in the trenches, heroes. Maybe not the superheroes who leap tall buildings in a single bound, but Abraham was one of them. And as flawed and as imperfect as Abraham was, he serves as one example from God's word, from the Bible, of a dad that made a difference. Now, there are all kinds of character qualities in Abraham's life, and we don't have time to go through all of them. I'm actually going to be taking excerpts from a chunk of the first book in the Bible. It's called Genesis. It starts with the creation of the world, and you got all kinds of stuff that happens in the first 11 chapters. But from chapters 12 through 22, actually well beyond that, but at 12 through 22 is what I'm going to focus on. And in Abraham's life, we see all kinds of important character qualities. We see, among other things, a man who was a hard worker. And that's an important attribute of an everyday hero. They work, they sacrifice, they provide for their family. We see in Abraham that there was a generosity in him. And I'm not going to go into detail about that, but there's an interesting story in Genesis 13 where he and his nephew Lot both have lots of flocks and herds, and they were overgrazing the land. So Abraham basically says, look, there's a lot of land out there. You pick a spot and I'll take the leftover. And Lot chooses the best. He chooses the Jordan Valley. If you've ever been to Israel, that's a very lush area. It also happened to be right in the shadow of Sodom and Gomorrah. But there's a generosity about Abraham, and I think that's one of the things you see in dads who make a difference. There's a generosity of their time, their spirit, and even their resources. There's a warrior spirit in dads that make a difference, and we certainly see that in Abraham's life. Again, in that window in the book of Genesis, there's an episode where Lot and his family are basically kidnapped and taken as slaves, and Abraham musters up his troops. There were only 331 men, and they chase these guys from the south of Israel all the way to the north. He fought for his family, and the real day, modern, in the trenches heroes are the men who fight for their families. They fight for their sons and their daughters. I was thinking about that, and somehow I always go back to this goofy sketch that was on Saturday Night Live some years ago, known as the motivational speaker. So Chris Farley playing the role of Matt Foley. And if you've seen that, you know, he's the big, heavy guy living in the van down by the river. But there was a scene before that where the late Phil Hartman, and I don't remember who's playing the role of the mother, but these rebellious teenage kids are sitting on the couch, rolling their eyes at their parents. It was David Spade and Christina Applewhite or Applegate, whatever her name was. But anyway, the dad makes this comment. He says, because he's teeing it up for the motivational speaker, he says, hey kids, your mom and I, we don't want to get down on you. Remember that scene, any of you? We don't want to get down. And the kids are like rolling their eyes like my parents are the biggest losers. Let me tell you something about dads who are warriors. You know what they do with their kids? They get down on them. They get in their business. Not to bully them, not to shame them, but have you ever noticed that children have the capacity to make really bad decisions? I like to say that a dad who's a modern day hero, they not only get down on their kids in a way that actually they get down on them to raise them up, but I love dads who get down on their kids and get down with their kids. You know what I'm saying? Like if you don't, we have dance parties with our kids and grandkids all the time. So you see that in Abraham. There was a sense in which he was willing to go to battle for his family. So there's a lot of attributes about Abraham, but I want to spend our time focusing on three key ones. And the first one is actually the one where I want to camp most of our time. What we see in Abraham, the dads that make a difference, the everyday heroes, there was a deep, practical, in-the-trenches faith. Deep, practical, not pie in the sky, but in-the-trenches faith that guided Abraham's life and that impacted his family. And that's why we're still talking about him today. Now, at the very beginning of Abraham's journey, there's a section where there's a command from God that's followed by an enormous promise. Here's the command. This is Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. The Lord had said to Abram, go from your country. By the way, Abraham, his name was Abram, and he was renamed Abraham, which means father of many nations. So the Lord said to Abram, go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. And the operative word there is go. This is not a suggestion. This is a command. Then comes the promise. The promise starts with verse 2. And God says to Abraham, if you go, because it's conditioned, you go, here's my end of the deal. I will make you into a great nation. Now, he's fairly old at this time. He's got no descendants. He says, I'm going to make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. That's an enormous promise that God makes to Abraham. But what made Abraham a dad who made a difference is that he acted on his faith. This is not, he didn't just intellectually say, okay, he acted on his faith. So if you want to be a dad who makes a difference, it really comes down to hearing from God like Abraham did, and then just obeying what God tells you to do. You hear from God, you obey what God tells you to do, and you do that in the trenches of your life where people around you, especially your own kids, go, this is legit. My dad, his faith is real. I heard a story about, and I don't even know if this guy was a dad. I think he was a young man, but he heard from God. He's in India. I heard about this through a ministry that I'm involved with called Big Life. And I think he had family or some connections in Bangladesh across the river. And God laid it on his heart to take God's word to the Muslim people groups in Bangladesh. So he has this idea. He gets a backpack and he stuffs it full of Bibles, of New Testaments, and he underlined John 3:16, Romans 5:8, a bunch of key verses, so that when he distributed the Bibles in Bangladesh, he could show these people. So he gets, it's like midnight, and because it's illegal to cross, he's going to cross the river. Now, by the way, this river's like, I've seen it, it's like a half a mile. It might even be a mile wide. And there's a fairly strong current that goes out to the Bay of Bengal. If that young man actually did what he intended to do, he probably would have drowned. So as he's going by the river, he's spotted by the Indian police, and they tell him to halt. He starts running, and they're firing at him. Not like superheroes. If he gets hit, he's going to die. He gets to the river, and he takes the backpack off, chucks it into the river, and he's thinking, well, I'll come back later. I don't know why he thought this, but I'll come back later. I'll retrieve the Bibles, and then I'll take them over. Well, the Bibles, they're going to get washed away. And they're not like in Ziploc waterproof bags. He just throws it in the water. I don't know how he thinks he's going to find these things. And the police, they arrest him and they take him to jail and they released him after 2 days. And he went, well, that was a bummer. But God had placed this on my heart to bring the good news of Jesus over into Bangladesh. So he said, I'll try something next month. About 3 or 4 days later, maybe a week later, after he was out of jail, because it was like 9 days total, guys knock on his door. He opens the door and they say, are you so-and-so? He goes, yeah. He goes, why didn't you put your name and your contact information in the book? He's like, what are you talking about? He says, this book, we found it across the river in Bangladesh. He's like, what? How in the world does a sack of Bibles in a non-waterproof bag make its way to the other side of the river dry? And they said, yeah, we started to read this and we saw these verses that are underlined and we don't fully understand them, but I passed one on to my brother and my brother-in-law. We now have 4 groups in Bangladesh that are reading about this Jesus guy. Can you help us out? So that's a guy who hears from God and acts on it in a way that's going to impact the next generation. So I would say it this way. Dads, let faith form you. Just like faith formed Abraham. Let your faith form you in a way that your words and actions forms faith in others. That's the kind of dad that's going to make a difference. So let your wives and your children see you read and then lead on the basis of what God reveals to you in his word. Make like the moral decisions of your life. Let them flow out of what you hear from God. And it's not a mystery. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not cheat on your wife. Right? So let your, if you want to be a real life, everyday hero to your kids, you want to be the dad that makes a difference, let them see how your faith impacts your life, from the moral decisions to the financial decisions, even as we talk about forgiveness over the next couple of weeks, as they see you. Learn how to forgive them. It's going to make a difference. So talk with your children, not only about what you believe, but why you believe it. And I remember some years ago, before Kensington, this church was called Bay Point. And there was no Bay Point at one time. I was pastor of another church, and we felt God calling us out of there to start this church called Bay Point. And I remember having to talk to my kids about it. Now, my daughter, Chrissy, was only 11 years old at the time. But as we're talking to her about this faith that was forming us, she wanted no part of it, because all of her friends were at this other church. But that became a catalytic moment where we talked to her not only about what we believed God was calling us to do, but the why behind it. Now, I'm not sure she understood all of that at 11 years old, but it's important if we're going to be dads that make a difference. Abraham's willingness to trust God no matter what may be the greatest legacy that he left to his children. And why would I say that? Because the New Testament actually, as the New Testament memorializes Abraham, here's what it says about Abraham. It says, it was by faith, this is Hebrews chapter 11, it was by faith that Abraham obeyed when God called him to leave home and to go to another land that God would give him as his inheritance. He went without knowing where he was going. It's one thing to leave something when you know what that other thing is, but to leave everything you know on a journey where you have no idea where it's going to end up, that's a whole other thing. And this says, and even when he reached the land God promised him, he lived there by faith, for he was like a foreigner living in a tent. So Abraham, he went in faith, but when he got there, he had to live in faith, and everybody knew it, especially his family. So here's a question. How do you leave a legacy of faith? For those of you who really would love to pass on something in your life that can live on for future generations, how do you leave a legacy of faith where you leave it one faith-informed decision at a time? The dads who make a difference. It's one faith-informed decision at a time. So I would say to all of us, but to dads in particular, if it would be a dream of yours that your children would live life with the heart of a servant, if you want the next generation and maybe your grandchildren and beyond that to live an other-centered life in a me-centered world, if you want your children to be kind and compassionate in a world that can be sometimes cold and cruel, well, if the faith that forms you is lived out in such a way that it forms faith in your children, there's a pretty good chance it'll get passed on. Here's the way Jesus put it in the New Testament. And this is not just for dads, it's for all of us. But he says, let your light shine before others. And the others would certainly be our own families, so that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So I think about my own dad on Father's Day. My dad was born on June 6th. So his birthday was 11 days ago. If he was still alive, he would be 95. He's one of those guys from the greatest generation, World War II vet and all that. My dad he had a lot of the attributes of Abraham. He's hardworking, he's faithful, loved his family, loved my mom. But we never had any faith conversations with my dad. We just never talked about Jesus. It's not that he was an unbeliever. He just wasn't part of his vocabulary. And I share that with all of us who maybe come out of homes like ours, because you could be that first generation person that forms the faith in your children. You have your own personal encounter with the Lord Jesus, which I'll talk about in a minute, and you begin to pass that on to your kids. You can have that same impact that Abraham had on his children, even if you didn't get that from your father. So I would just say, if you want to live with no regrets, I would just say follow God. That's the first thing that we see in Abraham. He followed God no matter what. And if you do that, your kids, they're not going to forget it, and the world will be blessed as a result. So that's the first thing, is that it was Abraham's faith. Here's the second one, and that is that Abraham understood the value of a human soul. And there's an interesting story that depicts this in Genesis chapter 18. Remember, I said we're going to take a look at a few excerpts. In Genesis 18, there's a story where Abraham's nephew Lot settles in the Jordan Valley near the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. And apparently those two cities had become so wicked, so perverse, that God tells Abraham, I'm going to wipe out both cities. It's a hard story to read, but it begs the question, unless God is just a meanie or a bully, how bad must it have been? How wicked must it have been for God to say that? So there's this fascinating conversation that ensues, because Abraham says, like, okay, now God, I've followed you long enough where I have a sense that you're like a merciful God, you're a gracious God, but like, Lord, are you going to wipe out the city like completely, like everybody? Like, what if there's 50 righteous people? God says, I'll spare the city on behalf of the 50. And Abraham's like I don't want to test your patience, but what about 45? What about 40? What about 30? What about 20? He gets all the way down to this passage, and it says, finally Abraham said, Lord, please don't be angry with me if I speak one more time. Suppose only 10 are found there. And the Lord replied, then I will not destroy the city for the sake of 10. Which is really shocking if you think about it. There was not a single righteous person in the whole city, which speaks to the corrosive nature of sin. It's why in the New Testament it says that we should confess our sins one to another so that we'll be healed. In one of John's epistles in the New Testament, it says if we say we have no sin, the truth is not in us, and we deceive ourselves. But if we confess our sin to God, He'll wipe it away. He'll take it away. Because if we don't do that, our sin, there's a corrosive nature to sin that it doesn't just affect me, it affects my family. And you get enough people that live in open rebellion with an unrepentant heart, and it can tank an entire culture. And that's what's going on here. But here's what I want us to note about Abraham, is a dad who made a difference. It was his concern for people. So dads who make a difference instill in their children the value that all lives matter to God. From the oldest, frailest person to the unborn child in their mother's womb, to the smartest, to the simplest, that including people who are in open rebellion against God, which, by the way, all of us fit that description at one point. Maybe we're still there. But it's commendable for Abraham to say, man, I'm glad I'm not part of that town. I'm out of here. No. He stops and says, Lord, are you sure about this? Are you sure? This is the value that Kensington talks about with regard to evangelism. That you will never lay eyes on a person for whom Jesus did not willingly shed his blood. This church is about trying to figure out ways to reach that one who is far from God. And dads, if your children see you engaging with what I sometimes refer to as the last, the least, and the lost, if they see you engaging in gospel-centered conversations, if they see you inviting your friends to events like Man Up or I can't remember the name of the ministry, that's the hunting and fishing group here. What do they call that? Field and Stream, FAST, right? Field and Stream team. Yeah, that kind of stuff. If your kids see you inviting your friends to that, if they see you just serving people and not judging those far from God, they will likely take their cue from you and have that same perspective that Abraham had, which is a compassion for people. And speaking of this value of evangelism, at the beginning of the service, if you weren't in the room, there's a series coming up next week called Learning to Fly. And I love that analogy of letting go of the baggage, but this series is really about forgiveness and is one of the distinctives of the Christian faith. This whole idea of the God who forgives us and calls us to forgive others. And this series, I think, if I'm understanding it correctly, it's really about learning to forgive others and learning to forgive ourselves. And I cannot tell you how critical that is. And what happens to us when we don't do that well? It's really important. So if you've got friends that are far from God, trust me, they're dealing at some level with this issue of forgiveness. And this is a place we'll be able to wrestle those down. Okay, so Abraham had a deep practical in the trenches faith. He understood the value of human souls. Last one, real quick, is this issue of of his self-awareness of his personal brokenness. Because, even though he's a man of faith, no sooner does he start out on this journey than he betrays his wife. Very interesting passage. This is Genesis chapter 12, I think verse 10. It says, at that time, a severe famine struck the land of Canaan, forcing Abram to go down to Egypt, where he lived as a foreigner. It goes on and says, as he was approaching the border of Egypt, Abram said to his wife Sarai, she later became Sarah, look, you are a very beautiful woman. Now, can you imagine Sarai going, aw, that's so nice. You're not so bad looking yourself. He's like, well, wait a second, there's more to this. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife, let's kill him, then we can have her. And Sarai's going, yeah, that doesn't sound very good. Neighbor's like, that's okay, I got a solution. Next verse, so please tell them you are my sister. Then they will spare my life and treat me well because of their interest in you. Not the finest husband moment. Ladies, you think your man blew it? This didn't happen just once. This happened twice. Now, if you understand the culture, And the very real scenario that Abraham laid out, because they probably would have killed him, maybe you can be a little bit sympathetic. He's just trying to save his life and save his wife's life, but you can slice it any way you want. At the end of the day, it was cowardice and disobedience. But Abraham is a model of a dad who can make a difference because he owned his brokenness. See, Abraham knew that when God called him into this special covenantal relationship, it had nothing to do with the fact that he was some kind of moral or spiritual giant. He was not a superhero in that sense. He knew that his relationship with God, and I hope you understand this, that our relationship with God is 100% anchored in his grace and his mercy. So Abraham, I put it this way, Abraham's failure, in this case his cowardice, did not disqualify him. Rather, his humility uniquely qualified him. See, dads who make a difference in the world, but particularly in their own family, they own their failures. They walk in a spirit of humility. They know how to say to their children, man, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I made a mistake. I forgot. I blew it. They process mistakes that they've made with their children. You don't have to divulge everything, but there are moments where it's healthy to talk, especially as your kids get a little bit older, to say, you know what, there was a time in my life, let me tell you about it, when I zigged and I should have zagged. I remember talking to my kids about, be careful here, but there was a point where drugs were a part of my life before I knew Jesus. And I remember talking to my kids, and I was very careful to say, look, I had nobody coaching me on this stuff. I was on my own. So if you think that because I did this when I was 13, it entitles you, I will hunt you down and I will get down on you. Being a dad makes a difference is, it just involves kind of owning your brokenness and being humble enough to go to your kids and say, I'm sorry. And some of you, whatever age you're at, or you're watching online, you've never heard your father say, I'm sorry, a single time. And if that's true, if that's you, then I just want to tell you, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. You know, we're not superheroes. We don't get it right all the time. So if you want to be a dad who makes a difference, learn how to go to your kids. Learn how to go to your wife. Don't make excuses. I'm sorry, but. Just own your stuff. Tell them, I'm sorry I hurt you. Sorry I let you down. Tell them, forgive me, and I love you. And I'll tell you, I've known men my age. I'm 59 years old. Be 60 in a couple months. I've known guys my age whose fathers are still alive. They're in their 80s or 90s, still hoping that one day dad will say he's sorry. And if your children are younger and they see a pattern of humility in us dads, it is an incredible gift that you give to your children that will then get passed on to future generations. And if you were raised by a dad who was not faithful, he was not an honorable man, and he maybe wasn't ever involved in your life, what do you do when Father's Day rolls around? You know what you do? You do the best you can. You do the best you can. It doesn't help to fake it. But maybe for some of us, there are simple ways that are not disingenuous, but there might be simple ways where we can figure out ways to show honor to men who maybe haven't been all that honorable. Because sometimes when we do that, when we take a first step, sometimes there's a healing in our own hearts, and sometimes it can soften the hard heart of your father. So, you'll have to kind of listen to the whisper of God and do what he tells you to do. But just let me summarize. We're just basically scratching the surface of Abraham's life. He was an amazing man. There's a story I haven't even told you about. One of the most epic stories in his life is when God called Abraham to sacrifice his son Isaac. That's one of these stories where you're like, what? God's calling him to kill his own son? No. You have to understand that in that culture, child sacrifice was fairly common in the pagan religions. Abraham would have known about it. So when God says, I want you to take your son Isaac, the child that I had promised you, and Abraham's 100 years old now. No, he's older than that because Isaac was like, I don't know, 13 or something. He's like 110, 115 years old. And he's like, God, you want me to what? And so he takes Isaac and he makes this altar and he's going to kill his son. That story it was never about the death of Isaac. It was about the death of Abraham. It was about, Abraham, are you willing to die to the script that you have for your life and follow me no matter what, because I have a very different plan for you? So, what would our families be like? What would our churches be like? What would our schools be like? What would our communities be like? Those of us who are every day in the trenches, dads, grandpas, stepdads, men who aren't necessarily dads but play a father role in somebody's life, what would it be like if, like Abraham, we just said to God, I'm all in. I'll follow you in immediate, radical, costly obedience. What if we adopted the open-headedness of an Abraham? What if we were warriors that fought for our wives, fought for our sons and our daughters? What if we lived with a kind of brokenness and humility that affected the next generation and brought great honor and glory to God? So I throw that out to all of us as fathers to say, well, I wonder if there's an area where we say, you know what, God, I want to pursue you. I want you to use my life. God, I'm not a superhero, I'm just a regular dude. But if I can live a life fully surrendered to you, with an in the trenches faith, if I can live my life where I see the value of human beings, maybe, God, I could have a legacy, something like Abraham. So I just want to say to all of you regular, ordinary guys, dads, grandpas, stepdads, and men like me, thank you for every sacrifice, every effort you make to show love and compassion and kindness to your family and to make the world a better place. And if you wonder if all those sacrifices, all those things that you do that nobody sees, if you wonder if they really make a difference, check out this story on the video. This one's for you.
Growing up, I never really knew my dad, my biological father. And so that was something that was really tough growing up because everybody that I knew in my neighborhood, they had a mom and a dad. And it was kind of awkward because it's like, oh, I just have my mom. That really established a great bond between me and my mom because it was just us. Like, it was me and her against the world, and that was just like what we were doing. And then when I was 5, she met a guy. He had an opportunity to literally just focus on my mom and concentrate on my mom and making her happy, but he saw me there and he intentionally took the time out to make sure that I was cared for and making sure that I was okay. And he made it known from the beginning that that was something that he wanted to do and that he wanted to participate in just being in my life. And he never really wanted to exclude me. And I hear a lot of people give me stories about how they really felt excluded by, like, their new dad coming in, and he always sacrificed comfort and finances and everything just to make sure that I felt included. And so I think that was probably the biggest thing throughout my life. Him making sure that I was included and making sure that I was valued and that I was respected as like an active participant in the family, that's how he earned the title of dad. I would say that I've seen my dad fight for me and my family just by consistently encouraging me and always making sure that he knew that I knew that I was great and that I was eligible for greatness. He would always tell me, you can do anything, and don't allow anyone to tell you that you can't. And that's something that really shaped me because confidence is something that is a struggle for all of us, myself included, but whenever I can get a hold of my dad, he's just like, listen, don't let anyone tell you that you can't do this. You know who you are. This is like, you're my kid. Like, this is who you are. You're going to be great because I said you're going to be great. That's who God made you to be, and that's who you are. He always told me to make sure that I always treat people not just the way that I wanted to be treated, but to treat people the way that God treats me. He modeled Christ in the way that he treated others. It really has shown me what a real man is and what a real man does when the chips are down. And not even just a real man or a real father, but just a real leader. Being a leader is really a response. And being a leader is all about how you respond. And so that's allowed me to pretty much be there for any and everyone that I can be there for, whether that's as a ministry leader or as just a friend to someone. I always think to myself, this is something that my dad would fight for. This is something that my dad would want to help someone with. And so because of that, I always want to make sure that I'm always there for someone, especially when they need it.
Let's all stand and sing for this last song. We're going to sing Great Are You, Lord, together. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Sing this with me. You give life. You give life. You are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Let's hear every voice declare this. And all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord.
Okay, before I dismiss you and pray like this rousing blessing on all of the dads, the grandpas, and even the young men who aren't dads and someday may be, I want to say something about that song. I'm so glad they played that. It's not like a traditional, I don't know if there is a traditional Father's Day like worship anthem, but here's what I want to point out. I think about Steve Andrews, who's the founding pastor of Kensington, and I was the founding pastor of Bay Point. Steve and I have become friends, and we've swapped stories. He comes out of a very different family from me. He had like an amazing mom and dad, and in some ways I did too, but the faith perspective, totally different. But I think if Steve were here, he'd tell you the same thing I am. I don't care whether you had the best mom and dad in the world, or maybe not so great moms and dads. There is something in the human soul that no human being can fill. That's why if you come out of the most loving, Christ-centered family, as awesome as that is, there's still something in your soul that your mom or your dad cannot fill. And that's why I love that song, because it speaks about another father. And I know that speaking about God as Father is difficult in this culture because there's so many fathers that just kind of mess things up. I'm telling you, if you need a father who promises he will never leave you or forsake you, who reminds us over and over in his word that you're his son, your precious daughter, you have royal blood that courses in your veins because you're made in his image. If you need a God who will hold you in the firm grip of his grace late at night, when the waves of grief and sadness that this world brings, I don't even know I have the words to encourage you, to implore you, to flat out beg you. You know, I don't know where everybody is at in terms of relationship with God, but maybe you can just say, God, if you're there, if you're a father, our Father in heaven, I need you. All you have to do is, like I did many years ago, I reached up a sin-stained hand, and the hand of God grabbed hold of me, and he rescued me. And it began a journey. I didn't understand it all then. I don't understand it all now, but I understand a few things. He's real. He is a father who loves you. He's proud of you. He believes in you. He is for you. So on this Father's Day, wherever you're at with your earthly dad, know that there is a Father in heaven who longs to be in a relationship with you. So I want to lead us in a prayer, but mostly I want to just pray a blessing on the dads. So like if there's I'll just do this. I don't know how exactly to do this, but if there's a guy near you, and guys, you can lay hands on each other, but gals, find a guy, even if it's something you don't know, just try to connect with somebody. This can be really weird if you're an introvert. Like I'm not touching somebody I don't know. I just as a blessing, like is that George? George is down here. Somebody needs to lay hands. He's a good man, right? So like just be a family. Just reach out to people around you. And so Father, now, first of all, we thank you that you are our Father in heaven. Hallowed be your name. God, may your kingdom come and your will be done on earth, especially in the lives of all the dads, all the stepdads, all the grandpas, all the young men who someday will be fathers, that your kingdom would come and your will would be done in their lives and our lives. We thank you for every man, and we pray a special blessing on them. God, that they would step into their role as spiritual leaders. They would trust you like Abraham did. They would see the value of all human life and live into that. They would live with a generous disposition. They would be warriors for their family, and they would walk in a spirit of humility. Because the Bible says, God, that you resist the proud, but you draw near to the humble. And so, Lord, in this room of men, we humble ourselves before you. And we thank you for each dad in this room. Bless them this day and the days to come. We pray in Jesus' name. And everybody who agreed said, amen. Now I've been reminded to let you, all the dads know, there are donuts out at the table and Arnie Palmer's. And there's also a photo booth back there with golf clubs and all that cool stuff. So happy Father's Day. Go do cool dad stuff. See ya.
And thank you so much for watching online. We're so glad you decided to spend your Sunday with us. And again, we just wanted to say a happy Father's Day. If you're looking for more information about us or any of our campuses, we'd love to connect you to Kensington Church online. You can check that out. It's kensingtonchurch.org. That's really where you can find out a lot of information about us, and also on our social media accounts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Those are some of the best ways that you can find out more information about us. But we hope you have a great day. And if you're a dad, we hope you have a great day spending time with your family. We'll be right back here next week for a brand new series called Learning to Fly, and we'd love for you to check us out either live at one of our campuses or online then at 9 or 11. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.